having an excellent discussion with Rupa Subramanya, who's done some wonderful journalistic work here, explaining and undercover and discovering as to why did we have these travel mandates, what justification was used, and of course, following a recent federal court case about two plaintiffs who've appealed to the court and have filed a civil suit. Rupa, you said, of course, a very outrageous thing, but it was said, is that the lawyer for the Attorney General federally said that, well, we cannot take politicians' statements as law. But we're talking about the Prime Minister here. I mean, if I want to know what's coming down the pipe, I'll hear what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said that day. Is that not strange?
Well, it is. I think the argument that the lawyer for the Attorney General was making was rather bizarre, to say the least. He said, I think it's fair to say that there is no evidence that these travel measures are returning. The statements made by ministers are political statements and press releases, not legal statements. And the attorney for the plaintiffs and press for laws rightly said that these, what type of democracy do we exist in if we cannot trust the truthfulness of statements being made by government ministers? So, I think what is at stake here, Tanya, is that, our charter protected rights were seriously violated during the pandemic, and there's got to be some accountability in the system, and so this case has wider significance when it comes to public scrutiny and accountability. This effectively, if the federal court, Justice Gagné, rules that the case is moot because the mandates have been suspended or lifted, what it ends up doing is it legitimizes this practice by the government of, where you're restricting people's rights so long as the restrictions are removed just before it comes up for a hearing before the courts. Wow. So therefore, the government can't be held accountable. Now, let me remind you, we experienced a version of this during the protests when the Prime Minister invoked the Emergencies Act. And just before it came up for a hearing before the Senate, it was withdrawn. So no accountability. And this kind of thing is not healthy, in my opinion, for a society that's governed by the rule of law. And so therefore, I think, I really do think that this case deserves its case, and it deserves its day in court. And hopefully the judge comes to that decision as well.
I think many Canadians, again, it doesn't matter what your vaccine status is, but again, this policy, these travel mandates impacted so many millions of Canadians, impacted everyone. And people want to know why were we the last one to lift it? Why were they brought in the first place? And if this court helps uncover that, then I think that's a very good thing. And again, you mentioned that it really infringed upon our rights. And the two rights that I think we need to talk about, the fundamental rights, were the mobility rights and the right to bodily autonomy, to say yes or no to a medical treatment, which is a right. So how do you foresee, you're not a fortune teller, you don't have a magic ball, but, I would hope that the justice would, for the sake of information, at least continue on and not declare this moot. How do you think this case will go? Do you have any inkling?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, again, given the nature of our system, the courts have been incredibly deferential towards the government. We've had no success in challenging these mandates in court. We've had very little success. The fact of the matter that this case even got this far is extraordinary. So that's a good thing. But generally speaking, our courts have been very deferential. So I'm not sure what this judge is going to say. Obviously, I don't have a crystal ball that I could gaze into. But I'm hoping that she realizes just how important this is, and just, what millions of Canadians had to experience. It was not just the unvaccinated, by the way, the 5 to 7 million unvaccinated who, were, it was also their families. Yes. Everybody knew someone who was unvaccinated. Everybody knew someone who was affected by this. So it affected a much larger group of people. And I think going forward, we really need to ensure that there's some accountability in the system. So as the plaintiffs say, so this never happens ever again. Right.
Very well said, Rupa. Thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I do hope the case proceeds, and we'll be keeping a close eye on it. Thank you so much.